Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. You may recall that a few days back, Call of Duty finally detailed how skill is involved in the matchmaking process, basically detailing in some pretty in-depth ways, at least in their own studies, how skill-based matchmaking functions within Call of Duty. And if you were to look at the general Call of Duty community, the general player base, and ask them what is wrong with the game, you're probably gonna get three main answers. It's going to be skill-based matchmaking, it's going to be the servers, and it's going to be the anti-cheat. While yes, we've had several good updates to COD, several good games over the years, these three things have consistently plagued Call of Duty time and time again. Doesn't matter how awesome the launch may be for a new game, how innovative the gameplay is, how great the movement is, or the guns feel, or the audio sounds. If the servers suck, that's going to lessen your overall experience on the game. If the game is riddled with cheaters, like it has been for some time, it's going to lessen your experience on the game. And if skill-based matchmaking is super strict and very unforgiving, it's probably going to lessen some players' experience on the game. That one is a bit more subjective towards your skill level and whatnot, whereas the cheaters and the servers is much more so a universal issue. Here's the thing though, Call of Duty has now gone very in-depth on skill-based matchmaking. They released a 25-page white paper and a full blog detailing everything that we apparently needed to know about skill-based matchmaking, even though part of it was already extremely obvious and what we already kind of knew about skill-based matchmaking and how skill is involved as a whole, and part of it also kind of seems very misleading in certain instances where they talk about player data and who's staying on the game, who's leaving the game. It can all be, presented in a way that makes Call of Duty look like they got it all right from the get-go and they don't need to change anything, and it's just how they envisioned it working to begin with, kind of propping themselves up, and I've said that before. It just seemed like a rather strange article, but it did give us information in a more detailed way than we've really ever had. Yes, we got our discussion on skill-based matchmaking, and while some of it was all right and some of it was weird, it was still an in-depth discussion. What Call of Duty has not done, though, is present that same level of attention and that same level of focus to the game's other major issues in cheaters and in hackers and in servers and in lag and stability and everything going on there that sort of coincides with one another. And now it's got me, and definitely a handful of you have already seen a bunch of comments on videos, posts on Twitter, whatever it might be, asking, well, where's the energy for these other things as well? Because it just so happens the way that you can go through and you can manipulate skill-based matchmaking and adjust it to benefit what you consider to be the majority player base for Call of Duty, that benefits COD in the long run, right? It's keeping more players on the game, or so they're saying. It's obviously, somewhat protecting their largest player base in the casual audience. They don't have to constantly get stomped because according to their data, if casuals play too many good players, they then leave the game. And if good players just play good players, they also then leave the game. But the data that they went through and they, explained with those remarks could be misleading for a handful of reasons. The biggest of them being, they don't know why players are leaving the game. Now, they made all these claims in the skill-based matchmaking blog of, hey, we studied this, we loosened the skill-based matchmaking, and 90% of lesser skilled players didn't come back to the game, as much as 10% of players did. And then we made skill-based matchmaking more strict. We tightened it, and then good players who were only going up against other good players also left the game in larger numbers. So we're going to keep skill-based exactly how we have it now, and that's what's keeping players on the game the most. But they don't say, hey, we studied this and told players that skill-based was looser, and then that's why all the casuals left. They said they did it at random and didn't say anything about it to test and see what the general reaction was. But from Call of Duty's standpoint, how can you say, okay, player 1, 2, and 3 were playing during the loosened skill-based matchmaking, they lost a couple of games, then they didn't come back? Well, what if they were playing in those games and they lost because they were on 200 ping and their server was freezing, their server was skipping, they were playing on last gen Xbox and their game was completely unplayable for like 3 weeks back in season 4? What if they ran into some cheaters and said, you know what, all right, that's my 4th cheater this week, I'm not doing anymore, it's time, I'm going somewhere else, it's college football time here, it's road to glory time, whatever the case is, right? How can they say definitively, hey, we loosened the skill-based matchmaking and saw these players not return it at the same rate? That's only because of skill-based matchmaking. That's a weird assumption to claim that they know even more about skill-based matchmaking than what they might let on to there. So that in and of itself, that whole experiment that they ran, the in-depth stats that they went through and detailed for us, it's great that they're doing that and actually being transparent about what they want to be transparent about, and they're presenting data that we haven't seen before, but they don't take into consideration, or at least haven't yet taken into consideration, the other main problems with this game. Servers have been bad for years. This is no secret. Call of Duty servers have always been low tier for what the franchise is, that being one of the largest games on the entire planet. You know, the hit reg issues that have plagued the game year over year, leaving players wondering, why is it that when I'm shooting this guy and it seems like I'm getting 20 hit markers, he's killing me in 5, the kill cams not being accurate, the ping in the data centers being very inconsistent. One game you could go anywhere between, you know, 200 ping and then get down to a 30 or a 40 ping, and you have these random lag spikes that then diminish the experience. All the servers issues have really been, I think, heightened this year. It's been really bad in certain, you know, scenarios and certain time frames, but there's never been any significant, you know, detail given to these. Call of Duty's never really acknowledged things outside of occasional problems with packet burst or packet loss that they've then quote unquote resolved. They never gone in depth and said, hey, this is how the servers are working. They've talked about their data centers and how ping works in a previous white paper, but never the servers themselves and how they approach having the best server experience for all players, when in reality, the tick rate probably could be a lot better, especially given how much money COD could invest into that if they wanted to. And the same situation then applies to the anti-cheat as well. And this is something that we have hammered on numerous times this year and in years past, talking about how the anti-cheat is not up to industry standard. The servers are not up to industry standard. Yet COD does not acknowledge these things. They've talked about various little Ricochet updates. Hey, we're adding in more mitigations. We've banned this many accounts, but they've never truly gone in with the same energy that they brought for skill-based matchmaking, which again is a system that helps keep players on the game from their POV. It's something that they've tested and fine-tuned over the years to make the most money out of it. They haven't done anything for servers and for anti-cheat, and I have to wonder if that's because they'd have to spend more money to invest in the better servers. They'd have to do more and spend more money to invest in a better anti-cheat that's actually preventative and stops players from hitting the game. Maybe it's more invasive and it's on like Riot's level with everything going on there, but if it makes the overall experience for COD better, long term, would that not be better for COD as a business? If Call of Duty suddenly updated the servers and they were super smooth, there was a really consistent feeling hit reg, your ping was always really reliable as well. You could play with parties from across the country and you wouldn't have to worry about 1 or 2 players suffering way more than the others, and it was just a much more generally playable experience there without major hiccups happening. Would that not get more players onto the game and then more players buying the bundles, returning at a higher rate, spending money on the battle pass and everything season after season? Same deal with cheaters. If they upgraded and invested in Ricochet to improve it more and more, and then there were less and less cheaters every single update, would that not have more players returning to the game? Hey, I can finally play and not have to worry about getting beamed out of the sky by a level 15 blatantly aimbotting and wall hacking. Or hey, I can now run around in ranked and actually go for Crimson and the Iridescent and top 250 and not have to worry about a max level player who's clearly walling not being banned, right? Short term, yeah, they'd have to dump a bunch of money into this stuff. Does COD want to do that? Who knows? It seems like in the past, the answer has been no, because they haven't done anything. But long term, I feel like, at least from my POV, these would be drastically better for the player base and for the overall health of the game, and probably the popularity of the game as well. Yet, we've seen no major acknowledgement of either of these issues outside of their little random one-off updates here and there that usually don't end up doing anything long term, which is disappointing to say the least. So one of the 3 major issues within COD has been addressed in a way that really wasn't a surprise to, I think, most players. The 2 other issues, though, a lot of radio silence, unfortunately, and not really many significant updates have dropped or seem to be dropping in the near future based off of what we know now. Hopefully this changes. Hopefully we eventually do get in-depth, rundowns of the servers, why they are the way that they are, or if there's any plans to actually significantly improve them. Hopefully we get in-depth rundowns of the anti-cheat and of Ricochet and what they plan to do to make it better over time. If that time comes, I cannot wait to make videos on that stuff because it'll be a very, very fun day. And of course, if anything ever does surface like that, this is the first place you'll find out about it. I'm always keeping you guys in the loop with the latest info, so feel free to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things going on in COD. And if you enjoyed this video, a like rating is always really appreciated. But all that being said, that is going to wrap things up. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.